have to come from the bottom here. Like that. That looks good. That flows a lot nicer and the branches fit together better. Much nicer. I've got a shoot sticking straight up here. I'll remove. I'll shorten this branch. Cut it in about half here. Trying to get in between the needles. Like that. There's a lot of congestion in here. I'll have to prune, clean it up and prune off some of the criss-crossing branches. That one. Cleaning it up so you can see this inner branch structure. I'll prune this one in half also. It's a little long. Like that. I have a branch that's kind of sticking straight up here. I'll take that off. Like that. There's also one here that's sticking straight up. I'll take that one off also. Like that. There's an old stub here I can clean up. I'll take this one off on the inside here. Inside of a curve. There's a weak branch growing from the bottom here. I'll remove. Like that. There's one on the opposite side here I can take off. I'm tempted to take this branch off, and I think I will. I'm going to take it off to here, shorten it. It was starting to interfere with all the other branches in the area. And it was kind of the same length and strength as the main kind of branch leader, so take that off. Take the tip off this one. Reduce the vigor in it a bit. It's looking better. A little cleanup over on this side I'll have to do. There's a lot of growth coming near the base of this branch, and I don't want to congest that up. I want to see that flowing branch line, so off it comes. Like that. That looks much nicer. Okay, that's much better. I've got a branch back here that it's kind of under the shadow of this upper branch here, so I've got to sort that out. So here's that branch. This is going to be a fairly major cut if I decide to remove it. The branch comes out and I've got it dividing nicely at the tip here. Looks quite natural, I think. But this one back here, even there's nothing wrong with the branch. It kind of counteracts this one nicely, but it's in the shadow of this one. So I've got two choices. I can remove the one above it that's blocking the light, or I can take the one off below. It does have a long section that is growing out in the light. So maybe I've just got to clean up all the clutter that's under the shadow of this branch and kind of grow it out a little longer maybe. It would kind of make that branch look a little maybe too fan-shaped. That's what I'm worried about, is getting it, you know, too fan-shaped and not branch-shaped. Tough decision. I'll think about it. I think I'll start by pruning off that branch above it. It doesn't flow in nice with the branch structure anyway, so I'll remove that. I'll make a flush cut here. Like that. That gives a lot more light down to this section. And this branch also flows much nicer. I'll just clean my cut up here a bit better. Like that. That looks quite nice. I think I will take off the one branch that goes kind of underneath this other branch, so I'll keep this section of it, of the branch, so I'll remove that and see where that gets us. Yeah, that's much better. Here's a look at that branch structure that I cleaned up on that lowest right-hand branch. And you can see it's looking much more branch-like. You can see the structure of it, the flowing structure. The branch above here, I pruned away a lot of that, you know, the branches that were shadowing out this lower branch here. And it's in a better direction now, and that flows much nicer also. So, yeah, I think that's been an improvement for the tree. I'll continue to work my way up the tree, cleaning up the branch structure, and then we'll come back and have a look at it all. It's the next day now, and we did get a rain last night, which was good. I'm going to start today with a major styling decision, and that's these two branches right here. Those two branches, when viewed from the front, are almost at the same level. You can see they kind of are right close to each other. When you come around the tree here, those branches look fine from any other view but the front. They just don't work from the front. So from the front view, you can see how these two branches almost come out from the same point on the tree. They're very close to each other, and it makes this area look really crowded. So I like to keep as many branches on the tree as possible, like good branches, and that is a good branch. But everything tells me I should remove this back branch. Just keep the one out front here, remove the back one. So I'm going to think about it, and yeah, it's quite a major decision. The branch I'm looking at, the one kind of duplicated back here, has a double branch coming out from the trunk. I don't know if you can see that in there. I think what I'll do is I'll remove part of that branch for starters, and then I'll see what it looks like. So I'll do that now. Okay, so I'm going to remove the part of the branch that kind of comes out parallel to the one in front, and then I'll leave the part of the branch that goes more towards the back. So yeah, I'm going to try that. It's a big cut, but here I go. Cut it off roughly at first. So there's the branch I'm taking off. Nice branch, lots of ramification and movement, but yeah, it just didn't fit in with the tree. So I'll clean this cut up now. As you can see, it's a fairly major cut, but this will heal over. See if I can come in from the other side here. Try and get a nice flush cut. I think that's pretty good there. All right, I'll rotate the tree around to the front and stand back and have a look at it. We'll see if that improved it at all. I think that was a big improvement. That branch is now kind of going towards the back. It doesn't conflict with this one nearly as much. I mean, it's not perfect, but no tree is. But I think that's a big improvement, and I'm happy with, happy that I removed that branch. There's a more close-up view of that area. I think that was the last major cut to the tree. I'm working my way up now to the apex. So there's a lot of sorting out to do there. There may be a lot of small branches coming off, but I think the shape of the apex is good. It just needs a little cleanup work so you can see more of the structure and less of a bush up top. In the apex area here, I'm coming in and trimming out a lot of small shoots that are just cluttering up the design. That way light can get through the apex and down to these lower branches a little more easily. A lot of these shoots in the apex are getting quite weak because they're just shaded out too. It wants to grow lots of shoots, but it only has so much light. I think all this will fill in again in a few years as it grows. This Austrian pine back buds really easily. So definitely a good tree for bonsai. I'm just following a lot of basic rules in the apex, removing crossing branches, branches that are on the inside of a curve, branches that are sticking straight up. You know, your basic kind of structural pruning. And then once that's all done, I'll look at the overall styling of the canopy and decide what to do. If anything, it may be quite fine the way it is. There is one major branch I want to remove from the apex here, and that's this one right here. It's kind of coming out over top of the one below it. And I think I have enough other branches in the apex that it won't affect the style at all. But it will clean this area up so it's not quite so dense behind the main apex, which is up here. So I'm going to take it off. So here I go. It's also getting quite heavy for a branch up in the apex. So there I go. That's what the branch looks like. So that gives a lot more light to the branch behind here, and there's lots of other branches in the apex to kind of take the place of the one I removed. There's the apex from the front view, so you can see it looks a little lighter, but it still has its shape. The large branch behind the apex here is a real mess. It's a real, right from the trunk, it fans out with all these branches. So, and it's starting to thicken up in that area. So I want to reduce that down. I don't know. Yeah, it'll take a lot of reduction. I've got to simplify that. In the past, because it's in the back, I've just been letting it grow and it kind of fills in the canopy behind the apex. But it's getting to the point where it's becoming a problem. So I've got to go in and sort it all out. Remove a lot of these branches at the base. So I have sort of one branch coming off the trunk and then subdividing. Yeah, so that might be some major cuts too. So here I go. I'll rotate the tree around so you can see that branch right here. It's just thick and dense, and I can't even see the structure. It's so dense. It's just all needles. I can see it if I go underneath, so I may have to do my pruning from below, and that'll guide me. There's a look at that branch from below. So I'll start by taking, it kind of comes off the trunk and divides into three right away. So I'll remove the branches that are coming off the trunk at a weird angle. So this one right here, gone. Fairly major branch. And around the other side, there's another branch fanning off that has to go. So there's that one gone too. Another fairly major branch. And then there's a little one coming off the trunk here that I'll have to remove. Maybe reduce that bulge down here a little bit, like that. That's good. At least now I can see a bit of the branch structure. So again, I'll come down below here and look up, and there's a branch I see that doesn't flow in nicely with the branch structure, so it comes off. Like that. Another one around this side comes off at a funny angle, almost 90 degrees to the branch. I want them to kind of flow out from the main center of the branch. An old maple key in there. Yeah, it's so dense, there's all kinds of, you know, old needles collect in here and everything. Okay, so I'll have another look from below. Yeah, so now it's dividing from like 1 into 6. So it's still quite a messy looking branch. I'll remove some of the branches from up top that are sticking straight up here. So I'm starting to see the branch structure now, which is good. Just cleaning out some buds that are in there and some old needles, and the branch is starting to reveal itself. So it kind of, there's an upper part to the branch. It's almost like kind of, this is my apex, and there's almost like a double apex here, which isn't a bad thing. I'll remove some of this congestion at the end of the branch here. There's a lot of branches overlapping each other. Like that. I'll move this one vertical one here. It's looking a lot cleaner now. I can actually see what I'm doing. I think I'll remove this side one here. Some old needles I can clean out here. Just loose ones. I'm going to remove this upright part here. Keep my 2 branches either side of that. Or my buds. There's one below that can be removed. This one can be removed. Old needles here. Now, still has a lot of cleanup work to do on it. This branch is getting close to the apex, so I don't want it horizontal. I want it kind of angling up. So I think some of these lower horizontal branches should be removed, so I'll do that. They're a little bit weak down below here anyway. They haven't been getting any light. So you can see more of the branch structure now, but it's still really, really congested. Too many branches coming from one spot. Now, I kind of have the major branch dividing from 1 into 3 now. So I think I'll have to take this part of it off. It's kind of bulbous looking, so like that. So now we're dividing nicely from 1 branch into 2. Let's clean up there. I can see the structure. All the buds are getting light. All the old needles are cleaned out. It's looking quite good. I think that branch is done. You're looking at the back of the tree here, by the way. I should have mentioned that. Okay, well, I will rotate it around. We'll see what it looks like with all that, back branch all cleaned up. Here's a look at the front view of the tree now. It's been cleaned up a lot. You can see all the branches clearly now. Even the crown is lighter, lets light in. All the branches are getting light, which is really good. It does have a lot of lichen on the trunk, so I'll clean that up. For some reason, lichen just grows like crazy in my bonsai area. It just gets thick every year, so I have to come in with a toothbrush and water and just brush it all off. Okay, so I've got just some rainwater and a toothbrush. I'll just come in. Now, I will be dislodging a lot of loose bark, but as I've mentioned before, I'm not a fan of the really loose bark on pines. I think it has the opposite effect. It makes them look delicate to me. When you look at a pine in nature, you don't usually say, oh, look at the rough bark on it. It has texture in that, but you don't notice all the flaky bark on the branches and trunk. It's usually not flaky, it's tight plates. So that's the reason, I don't mind scraping the loose flaky bark off the trunk, because you just don't really see that in nature. And this tree is getting fairly old, like it's 25 years old now, and it was probably 3 or 4 years old when I got it at the nursery. So it's probably a 30-year-old tree in total. So it's getting some nice bark on it now. It gets a little finer every year, and you don't want to obscure all that bark with lichen. You want to be able to see the color of the bark, the texture of the bark. Also, mature Austrian pines, they get a really nice white plates on their bark. Or yeah, the plates turn kind of a white. They get bleached by the sun. So if you have lichen obscuring the trunk, then you're not going to get those bleached white plates on your Austrian pine. It's just, as you can see right now, when I rub the lichen off, it's almost reddish underneath. So it's better to have it bleached by the sun and turn a nice white color. So that's the look I'll be aiming for. I don't know if I'll put this tree in the show this year. I might. I'll see how it develops this summer. See all those kind of dormant buds come to life, and hopefully it'll fill in a little more so it doesn't look quite so sparse in the foliage department. But yeah, we'll see. Your show trees, it's kind of, you pick what looks good at the before the show. You can't you plan, like my intent is to put this tree in the show, but if it's not ready, it's not ready. It can go in next year or the next year after that. When I first got this Austrian pine, the needles were huge. They were like this long. It looked like any Austrian pine you see in nature. The needles were full size. And slowly over the years, they've been reducing nicely. They'll never be really small like a white pine or anything, but this time of year, as the needles are just emerging and starting to grow, it looks really nice. It looks like a nice, tight miniature tree. And this one isn't any special species or anything that has small needles. It's just a regular Austrian pine from a nursery. I think way back then it cost me, I think it was like $17. I think it was my first kind of larger nursery tree I bought. It wasn't large, but it wasn't a cutting or something like that. It was my first kind of larger tree I bought. I never regret buying it, that's for sure. I've scrubbed the tree clean of lichen, so now I'll give it a rinse. Wash it all down. Just like that. I'm looking at the overall styling of it now, giving the tree a good critique. It does have, and always has had, a bulge in this area, and that's where I removed a whirl of branches. There was like, I don't know, all the branches in the tree were coming out from that one spot. I've often thought, should I go in and carve a section out of the trunk and try and reduce that swelling? And I've never done it. I've always thought, well, maybe if the tree grows, it'll kind of grow out. And it is. It's getting better as the tree gets older. So I don't really want to carve a chunk out of the trunk if the tree will repair itself or kind of fix that bulge, get rid of it. Up top, the trunk kind of has a few sections that goes thinner and thicker and thinner, and that's because also there was a whirl of branches when I initially got the tree, and it just, yeah, over the years it's just seems to have gotten a little worse maybe. In the past, I've grown a tall leader on the top of the tree, like a sacrifice branch, and it helps. It helps, you know, even out the thickness of the trunk and everything. And it takes a lot of vigor out of the lower branches, so the needles get quite small when you have that big, huge leader sticking out the top of the tree. But so that's another possibility, is I could do that again. It would definitely help grow the tree and fix taper and everything. The overall width of the tree, I think it's quite reasonable for a Austrian pine. This tree is sort of in between a thick trunk tree and a slender tree. At the moment it looks fairly slender. However, it will thicken up over the years, so I think it'll kind of go from a slender looking tree to more of a powerful tree in future. The root base is certainly coming along nicely. I'm really happy with that. It's got a nice spread. It's got good taper at the bottom of the trunk. I can't complain about that. It's looking really good. The bark texture is really nice. I think I've done a lot of branch sorting out today. They're not perfect for sure, but I don't want a perfect tree. I want it to be naturally imperfect, I guess is the word. Yeah, I think today it looks more tree-like than a typical, stereotypical image of a bonsai. And I'm going to continue growing it that way, trying to make it look like a tree you'd see in nature, not a green helmet tree. I'll rotate the tree around. That's all the work I'll be doing on the Austrian pine today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.